So starting with what's a watershed. A watershed is an area of land, as we know, that drains to a particular body of water, and any of the rain that hits the ground that doesn't absorb drains to that water eventually. So this is why we care so much about land management within our watersheds, because what happens on the land affects the quality of the water, as we know. And it also affects the ways that everybody gets to use those water resources, like fishing, swimming, recreation, all that kind of good stuff. So this is where we are. The city of Gaithersburg's watersheds are surrounding the city of Gaithersburg, which is this donut-shaped guy here. So these are our watersheds that we are including in our planning effort. The middle Great Seneca Creek, lower Seneca Creek, and Muddy Branch, of course. All of this is nested within the Potomac River Basin and drains right down there to the Potomac River. And then the Potomac River, of course, ultimately drains to the Chesapeake Bay. This is when you brought up the WSSC earlier, I was like, oh yes, this rings a bell. So this is actually a map of the service areas for drinking water in our watersheds and this overall region. So as I mentioned, City of Gaithersburg drains to the Potomac River, which is also a drinking water source for the City of Gaithersburg and other jurisdictions in the state of Maryland as well. I'm actually a big drinking water nerd. I've written a lot of grant applications for drinking water projects and done some research on that kind of stuff, so this is really fun for me. But I'd like to bring up at this point the one water framework, which is this kind of like holistic thinking that all water is water, right? The water cycle is a cycle. There's groundwater, there's surface waters, there's rainwater, and we have to manage those things holistically and create those connection points so that management that has co-benefits for all of the different types of water. So holistic management is what we're going for here, and co-benefits are definitely the primary goal. Blended water is a combination, I believe, of like multiple different sources.
Oh.
So certain watershed you get some from Potomac versus somewhere else.
Thank you.
Yeah. So a little bit of context. We do have watershed studies for these for the City of Gaithersburg's watersheds already that were written in 2013, 2014. So a bit old at this point. And they also only study the areas right within that city limits, which is, as you can see, not even the majority of the watersheds, right? And everything that's happening outside of the watersheds matters for the Potomac River, where it goes. So it makes sense to holistically look at this entire geographic area when we're updating these plans. That said, those 2013 studies have been really helpful and have led to a lot of real-world projects. They've been incorporated into the city's capital improvement plans and have resulted in lots of different projects to meet regulatory requirements and ecological goals and stuff like that. So our goals for this watershed planning project is to create 3 holistic, modern watershed plans that can inform our restoration strategies and advance resilience in the City of Gaithersburg's watersheds while keeping stakeholders like yourselves engaged and informed and really kind of making sure this is symbiotic, where we're getting information from you and you're getting information from us, and we're able to protect the watersheds in a collaborative. So, quick scope overview. We're going to talk about the technical scope of these plans, the geographic scope of these plans, and the collaborative scope of these plans. What are we doing, where are we doing it, and why are we doing it, / who are we doing it for? So the technical scope is how we're setting ourselves up for success with writing these watershed plans. We are following EPA's guidance. They have this 9-element framework of 9 core things that EPA says a watershed plan should include. And we're coupling that with CWP's decades of expertise, including literally writing the manual on restoring urban subwatersheds way back in the early 2000s and late 1990s. So we'll be incorporating all of the best guidance that's available at different levels, from federal to local to industry expertise from CWP and others as well. A tiny bit more about what a watershed plan actually is, because we get that it's a written document, but what does that actually mean? So the watershed plan is a kind of living document that in an all-encompassing way identifies water resource problems, proposes solutions, and includes the specific things that you need to do to achieve those solutions, and it's a full-fledged strategy to implementation. Obviously the focus is on one or more watersheds, and they are living documents, like I said, so they're meant to be changed as more information is gathered and to kind of set the stage for generally decades of management in the watershed. So these are science-based documents implemented by a mix of different agencies and community organizations, as well as individual private property landowners like you who are right next to a stream maybe, perhaps. Like I said, they often take many years to implement these projects that are suggested as recommendations. They assess current conditions for things like regulations, general programs in the city, and then physical on-the-ground projects. And they are very, very specific with individual project locations, how much it's going to cost, where it should be done, why, when, etc. So our geographic scope, as I mentioned, this is our entire watershed area, not just the city limits, and we are located, obviously, in Montgomery County in the state of Maryland. I think if you got here, you probably know this one already. And then collaboratively, this is a really exciting part of this project. We are cooperating with the city of Gaithersburg as a very close partner. Our subcontractor is Land Studies, who is a stream ecological design firm that has a lot of expertise in stream restoration and stream assessments throughout the entire Chesapeake Bay watershed, and the state of Maryland included. We'll be coordinating with public and elected officials. We have a presentation to County Council at the end of the project. We'll be working with volunteer and advocacy organizations like the Muddy Branch Alliance, Seneca Creek Watershed Partners, and then of course members of the public like yourselves will be invaluable as well. A little bit of an overview of our team, which I won't spend too much time on. I just want you to know it's more than just me clicking away at a computer, writing these plans up. I'm Jordan Fox, again, there. CWP, we have a structure to make sure there's quality assurance and everything. So Julie has over 25 years of watershed planning experience, is going to be helping me out. We've got a team of staff from engineers to hydrologic modelers to outreach specialists like Katie. And Lisa Fraley McNeil up there is actually one of the original authors for how the Chesapeake Bay program credits stream restoration projects. So she's not only a GIS and spatial data whiz, but a stream expert as well. And then the group underneath there is the Land Studies team, which is headed up by Ben, who is a geomorphologist with over 24 years of experience. We have a whole project outline, but I'm going to keep it at a high-level summary. Our core phases of the project are collecting data and kind of evaluating current conditions as this first stage, so setting a baseline understanding of what's going on, what are our conditions. Phase 2 will be actually going out into the, phase 2 will be identifying opportunities to go out into the field through desktop and field assessment. So we are going to analyze data to identify where we should go assess in the field and also collect opportunity sites from public stakeholders like yourselves. And then phase 3 will be to prioritize all of the opportunities that we identify, model their benefits, and write up those 3 final watershed plans. So that's watershed planning in a nutshell. I'm going to pivot and talk a little bit about how you can tell us what a good site for a stormwater project is, because that's how you protect a stream, right? Or one of the many ways to protect a stream. So what is a stormwater retrofit? Does anyone want to take a stab at answering that? We've got a lot of names.
Yeah. Whatever. The stream, it's there, and you look at it, and if it doesn't have all the components that it's supposed to have, you try to figure out if you can do that.
That's, yeah.
Add things to the stream that make it function better than it does now.
Yeah. definitely. So you're both on the exact right track where it's looking at an existing site and adding something to make it manage water better, right? So it goes by many names. You'll hear green stormwater infrastructure, you'll hear best management practices, you'll hear me say retrofit a lot. They're all referring generally to the same things. And a stormwater retrofit in this case is a type of on-the-ground, physically constructed project that is installed at a site that allows it to capture and treat additional stormwater runoff. So any rain that would hit a parking lot or a building or something like that, it'll capture it and treat it before it's discharged to a stream so that that stream ends up in better shape. These retrofits are designed by licensed engineers like those on the Center for Watershed Protection's teams, but anybody, scientists, engineers, and folks like yourselves can help us find opportunities for these projects. So that's what I want to focus on here. Stormwater best management practices or retrofits can look like a lot of things, and they might not always look the way you expect them to, so I want to give you a flavor of what a completed stormwater project could look like at any point. So a stormwater pond, a wet pond, is a way to manage volume and to allow sediment to settle out. So this is a stormwater management practice near a very large commercial development in Charleston, South Carolina. This is a bioretention basin in the District of Columbia, where there's a parking lot to the left collected into that inlet, that stormwater inlet right there on the corner. And instead of that water going into pipes and going into the storm drain network, which goes to a treatment plant to get treated or directly to a stream, depending on the type of government, it's instead going right into that little garden and feeding those plants and getting treated by those plants before it gets discharged. So that was a pretty bioretention. This is a bioretention in construction. So I just added that to show you that things look different depending on when you look at them. And this is the case with stream restoration too. It often gets uglier before it gets prettier and healthier. So keep that in mind, that construction changes, it'll fill in. You give it a minute. Stormwater retrofits can also be pretty simple, like putting a rain barrel on your house to collect water for your garden, or installing permeable pavement. Even though this doesn't look very green, these pavers are completely, water can go straight through them and into the soil underneath instead of it running off and going into the piped network. And then we mentioned regenerative stormwater conveyances here. This is another example of one of those, where there's a piped opening where stormwater is conveyed to a stream, but instead of going straight to that stream, it goes through all of these step pools for treatment first. So projects can look like a lot of things, and that's why you have to be creative when you look at sites and kind of don't cut yourself short. When you see a site, it could be an opportunity, you just don't know what type yet. So what makes a site a good candidate for a stormwater management project? CWP, like I said, we wrote the manual on this, and there are a couple of key things between that manual and the lessons learned of implementation throughout the years that we have identified 4 key things that make a site generally pretty good. The first thing is publicly owned property, or property with an amenable property owner. So projects, even if it's a perfect site, if it does not have a property owner who's willing to do the project will not be done. Generally, government-owned lands are easiest to do these projects on, but things like HOAs or community organizations or willing individual landowners could also be options. Another thing you're looking for is impervious cover to treat. One of the ways we measure how effective a stormwater project is how much runoff from all of those impervious built surfaces it's able to capture. So you want to see a big parking lot or big buildings or something, either on the site or right next to it. You also want some open grass. You need some space to build something. You can't just have a big parking lot and then the stream channel right next to it. You need a little bit of space to be able to put something in the ground first to be able to do some treatment. And then of course you need a degraded stream in need of restoration, or you want the property that you're looking at to drain to a waterway, generally pretty close by, or to the storm drain system, which would go to a stream as well. So I have just 3 quick examples of some good candidate sites from my fieldwork over the years that I like as examples. So this is what we'll look at. This is a site in Virginia that is it's actually our director of stormwater services, so our lead engineers, it's like his, I can't even think of it, it's his biggest regret that this project did not come to fruition. He thinks about this site regularly because it was such a perfect site. There was a huge industrial complex over here to the right, commercial industrial complex, shipping warehouse, etc., with all of this stormwater runoff going straight through a concrete channel through an unused grass field. No one's using this grass field, it's just concrete chute straight over there to what's back there, a really, really badly eroding stream. This is perfect. I would totally put any number of projects here to treat that runoff.
We've got one of those in Gaithersburg that we are planning to retrofit. So
Is that
in charge of that one?
Very good. So yeah, so we've got that degraded stream, right? We've got lots of impervious cover to treat, and we've got open space to do something. Unfortunately, this grass lot is owned by the commercial industrial property owner next door. We designed a full concept plan for them. We set them up with how to get funding. Didn't want to do it, never did it. This project looks the same 20 years later.
Yeah.
So this is why property ownership matters, and it's a big limitation to what we can put in the ground. Let's look at some other examples that are a little bit more optimistic. This one is at a park in Michigan. I was actually just here in October. This project is, there's a parking lot here, and we have a little grass area and a walking trail to the right. So we don't have a degraded stream necessarily right there, but what we do have is that inlet right in the center, which we know that water eventually goes to a waterway, right? So we have stormwater reaching water bodies eventually through the piped network. We also have our impervious cover through this parking lot and that trail, and open space in this grass area to do a project. So this was a good site. We developed a concept, we gave it to the local government, and they're working on implementation. Another one, this is a parking lot next to a community center. So not publicly owned land, but community organization, a willing, engaged landowner. It is close enough to publicly owned property. Again, we have that connection to the storm drains system, which is a real benefit for capturing additional runoff. And then we've got this giant parking lot, concrete chuted straight to the inlet, and open space to where this could be a garden or something else instead. So all this to say is, look for these graded inlets at your parks and tell us about them. And if they're in bad shape, I want to know. Or if there's a huge parking lot next to a stream that's really badly eroding, that's the kind of thing we want to know about. So keep an eye out for these types of projects. The city has actually developed a really great stakeholder survey where you can submit physical points of these sites. So we would love for you to do that. Please do that. And you can complete the survey as many times as you want to send us as many sites as you want. CWP's team is going to go out and physically assess at least 80 sites on the ground as part of this project. So we'll do a desktop analysis of many more and then physically go out to 80 of them over the course of 5 days. We are identifying those sites through relevant spatial data and stakeholder input. And again, please tell us if you know a site. Opportunities to get involved. So a couple of things, these are like what we're asking you to do as part of this meeting. Firstly, we have 12 of these meetings throughout the project period. There will be 1 per month, and every other month it will rotate between in-person and virtual. Please come. And not only just come, tell us what questions you have or what you want to talk about, what you want to learn more about. We want these meetings to be helpful for you, and we want to get information that is mutually beneficial for the watersheds, ultimately. So keep an eye out on your email for updates about the meetings from the city. The next way we need your help is assessing stream conditions throughout the watershed. So CWP's subcontractor Land Studies has budget to assess about 50 of the stream miles within the watershed. So they're going to go in and walk the center of those channels for 50 miles as part of this project. but there's about 192 miles of streams in those entire watersheds. You have a stream in your backyard. Send us a picture of it. Do a quick assessment. Let us know just generally what it is. We're going to have some meetings to help set you up with some tools to effectively assess streams in your own areas. But this is a big part where we're going to need some real volunteer participation. So keep an eye out for updates there. And then, of course, share your perspective. These plans only mean something if the people in the watersheds can use them and benefit from them. That is the point of preserving water resources in a lot of cases. It's not just about water quality. Yes, that's what's regulated in a lot of cases, but it's about the enjoyment and usability and all the benefits it brings to the stakeholders in the watershed and the nature in the watershed and the animals and the fish and all of that. So tell us what you care about the most. There are opportunities to do that in the survey, and we will listen and incorporate that feedback into the plans. So with that, I believe I'll turn it over to Katie for our last our last literal minute. How do you want to use this last?
I'll just quickly say we already started looking at the feedback, but we have over 30 responses, maybe even more now, and we've got a whole range of concerns that have come up throughout the watershed. So thank you so much for participating already. If you haven't, you've got some homework. Tell your neighbors, tell your friends, get them involved, and give them an avenue to share their concerns as well. All right. And then the last thing I really wanted to collect from you all is we don't have 3 minutes, but if you have a minute to say after or just add to your reflection card, I would like to collect these and read what you have to say. I'm curious to know what sources you currently rely on for community and watershed information. How can we help get this word further? How can we help get more people at these meetings, get people more informed? And the second question is how can we better reach and engage more members of our community? So if you have any thoughts on that and want to add them to your card, or if you need a new card, I'd be happy to give you one. I think you did that. But otherwise, that's what we have today. If anyone wants to share, I mean, we have literally 1 minute, but if anyone would like to share what their reflections are.
Yeah, we're not going to be kicked out or anything.
Right.
So if you want to stick around and chat, we can.
We're not going anywhere, but we understand we are at time. Sure.
Who's funding this program?
So this project has been on the budget of the city for the last couple of years. So
the
meaning
city is
it's funded by the stormwater fees that you pay.
Yeah, but they're funding the entire study that covers, I guess, half the county?
So we are covering, well, it does look like it's half the county. It's not quite half the county. And we are trying to engage those stakeholders as well, because we're responsible for what happens downstream and the people upstream are impacting us. So to just do watersheds have no political boundaries. And so it's to just limit it to what's going on in the city isn't a comprehensive